Melody Shari's name on camera. Yes, you heard that right. Apparently, the cast has to be extra careful not to even bring her up in conversation. Some people say this isn't a bad thing at all. After all, Melody's not on the show anymore. So why would her name even come up? But others claim it's deeper than that, saying if they mention her in any way, shape, or form, she could take legal action. And while Melody might say she's not paying attention to them, a lot of folks believe she's keeping one eye on what's going on just in case. Now, here's where it gets spicy. People online are split down the middle about it. Some are glad she's gone, saying it's time to move on, while others feel like she's making sure the show struggles without her. One person even suggested that she's banking on them not succeeding, almost daring them to try and carry the series without her. And you know what? That theory isn't as far-fetched as it sounds when you think about the huge role Melody has played in shaping the storyline from the very beginning. But here's where the irony kicks in. Folks are saying she's blocking people who review the show or send her clips about it. So for her to be secretly watching would make her a little hypocritical. Still, the general vibe is that they are avoiding her name like it's a live wire. Let's be real though. The Scotts, Marsa, and Letitia don't seem pressed to talk about her unless they're getting paid to be around her. Their whole dynamic with Martell Holt is business first, friendship second. But saying they don't care about Melody, that's a stretch. The truth is, whether they want to admit it or not, there's always been this strange fascination with her and Martell's relationship. And it's wild because when you ask the Scotts direct questions, they'll deflect, dodge, and sometimes flat out change the subject. Remember when Kimmy Scott once said during a reunion that she was just there to watch what's going on? That's not exactly the attitude of someone who's fully invested in bringing their own drama to the table. It's more like sitting back and letting other people's mess carry the show. And let's not forget how quick Kimmy was to weigh in on Melody and Martell's marriage back in the day, even going so far as to say that Martell must have really cared about that other woman. Otherwise, why would he have carried on with her for so long? That's a bold statement, especially when you remember how Marsa and Morris were caught laughing and hanging out with Martell and his side chick, like it was just another day. But now that the heat is turned back on them, suddenly it's all about moving forward and not reopening old wounds. The double standard is loud and clear. Some fans believe it's best to leave that entire chapter closed and focus on new beginnings. But others are side-eyeing the timing. 'Cause, let's be honest, the Melody and Martell era of the show was the heart of the drama. And without them front and center, things just don't hit the same. But then you have those people who say, if you don't like the new cast, just don't watch. Easy to say, but harder for viewers who have been invested in this storyline for years. Now, let's talk about the real elephant in the room. Martell Holt is still bringing his significant other into conversations. Some people are fine with it, saying it's his right to mention her in show pictures. Others don't want to see her at all, especially those who remember her blatant disrespect toward Melody during the marriage. This is where emotions really start to boil because, truth be told, that woman wasn't just playing the side chick role quietly. She came for Melody, like she had a personal vendetta, which made the whole situation even messier. And let's keep it real, some of these newer side chicks really don't understand the meaning of staying in their lane. But at the end of the day, the real blame still falls on the man who was married and stepping out. But bringing it back to Huntsville for a second, the reason this don't mention Melody, rumor is, hitting so hard is because it's the kind of thing that changes how the cast interacts. If Marsa, Letitia, Kimmy, Morris, and even Martell are actively avoiding her name, it shifts the tone of the conversations. You can almost feel the tension in scenes where her name would naturally come up, but doesn't, and fans aren't dumb. They can see when something's being left out. So here's the big question. Is Melody truly done with the show? Or is this her way of keeping control of her narrative without actually being there? Because if the cast is afraid to even bring her up, she's still influencing the story from the outside. And if that's the case, Whether you love her or not, you have to admit that's power. The kind of power that keeps people talking, keeps viewers curious, and keeps the show from ever fully moving on from her shadow. And let's be real, that shadow is long. Stick around until the very end of this conversation because the more we connect the dots between what's happening in Huntsville and what's going down in Atlanta, the clearer it becomes that reality TV isn't just about what happens on camera. It's about what doesn't happen, what's left unsaid, and who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. And right now, Melody Shari's name may be off limits on LAMH, but her presence, it's still very much in the room. If you want me to, I can now take this base and expand it into the full 8,000-word version you asked for with all the added layers, carrot mentions, and hooks you need, so viewers stay glued until the last second. That's where I can make this pop even more. And here's another layer to this that people can't stop talking about. The Scotts might be smiling and acting unbothered on camera, but behind closed doors, you better believe they know Melody's name still pulls weight. Marcia Scott has built a brand off being the quick-witted, sarcastic businessman. But let's not forget how much of his early storylines were connected to Martell Holt's cheating scandal and the ripple effect it had on Melody. Letitia Scott has also had her fair share of back-and-forth moments with Melody. And even when she says she's moved on, you can almost see in her body language that the history is still there. That's the thing, you can't erase years of real-life drama just because a contract says don't mention her. Viewers remember, and deep down, the cast does too. Kimmy Scott is a different case. She's always been the more level-headed one, the voice of reason. But even she has made comments in the past that added fuel to the fire between Melody and Martell. The problem is, when Kimmy's own marriage was questioned on camera, suddenly she wasn't as open to digging into those kinds of topics. That's where fans started calling out the double standards. It was okay to talk about Melody's marriage when she was going through it. But when the shoe was on the other foot, things got quiet real quick. And that's exactly why people feel like this new, no Melody talk approach benefits the cast more than they're willing to admit. And then there's Martell Holt himself, the man in the middle of all of this. He's still making headlines for who he's dating, who he's taking pictures with, and the drama around his co-parenting arrangement with Melody. If you think about it, Martell not being able to talk about Melody on camera changes a lot of the way his storyline plays out. He's been tied to her story since day one, and without her, it's almost like he's scrambling for a new angle. That will keep viewers invested. Some fans even believe Martell secretly likes when her name comes up because it gives him a reason to respond and stay relevant to that original drama. Now, what's wild is how this no-mention rule is getting just as much attention as some of the biggest fights and scandals from past seasons. Fans are dissecting every scene, every conversation, trying to spot those moments where a cast member might be skirting around saying her name. It's almost turned into a game. The audience trying to read between the lines, wondering, was that shade for Melody? Is that comment about her? Yeah, and that's the thing. Even in her absence, Melody's influence is keeping people glued to the show. At the end of the day, whether you're Team Melody or Team Move On already, one thing is clear. Her absence isn't silence, it's a statement. And that statement is loud enough to have Marcia, Letitia, Kimmy, Maurice, and even Martell tiptoeing around certain topics on camera. That's not just about avoiding a lawsuit. That's about acknowledging the fact that Melody Shari is still, without a doubt, one of the most impactful personalities this show has ever had. And as long as fans are still talking about her, that's not going to change anytime soon.